All right, welcome to the show. I'm back, Jason Whitlock, and I'll tell you why Dak Prescott just said something that has me very concerned.
And I'm Colin Cowherd, and I'll tell you why I have no problem with Tennessee moving on from Greg Schiano. Speak for yourself starts now.
They got Brady Hoke. What more do they need? All right, happy Thanksgiving, happy holidays. Hello and welcome. We're joined today by Fox NFL analyst Tony Gonzalez and Greg Jennings. Let's start in Pittsburgh, where the Steelers needed a last-second field goal to beat the surprisingly solid Brett Hundley and Packers last night. But an even bigger headline came before the game when Mike Tomlin basically admitted he was already thinking about his matchup with the Patriots in Week 15, saying, quote, the game is going to be fireworks and it's probably going to be part one. That's going to be a big game. But probably if we both do what we're supposed to, the second one is really going to be a big game. Cowherd, was it a mistake for Tomlin to be talking about the Patriots matchup this early?
It is with this team. Let's say I had Greg and I had Tony and they were veterans. They could handle it. This team is highly emotional, at times unfocused, at times immature, and the message is, fellas, you know, there is sort of a, we're the best team, we're going to meet them. It depends on the classroom. If you're a teacher, sometimes you get seniors, sometimes you get freshmen. I think with this kind of unfocused, highly emotional Pittsburgh locker room, I'd stay out of that comment.
I don't care if it's a kindergarten classroom or a college classroom. This is inappropriate. You focus on next man up, next game up. That's from the football coaching sports Bible. They got the Bengals, the AFC North. The Bengals are still in the playoff hunt. This is crazy, and when I watched them play Green Bay, I said, oh, this is it. This team is already looking past Green Bay. Their defense played poorly. Big Ben played poorly. 2 terrible interceptions. I don't get what Tomlin's doing.
This is kind of the criticism we both had on Mike.
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get it.
I completely think that it was uncalled. When you're a head coach and you harp on focusing on who we have in front of us right here, right now, you can't turn around and do this. You can't say things like this. There are so many different scenarios that can take place before that December 17th game against the Patriots. Injuries, you never know what can happen. And so for him to look that far, this is why the Pittsburgh Steelers are the roller coaster that we see. This is why they can't come out and beat a Green Bay team that they should roll through, which they play well, Green Bay, credit to them. But you can't, as a head coach, when you know you have the type of team and the issues that you've had in the past.
For 2 years now, 3 years.
For more than 2 years, you have to make sure your team stays focused, and more importantly, you have to stay focused.
Yeah, you know, you guys have been talking about this, how he's that emotional coach since I've been working with you guys this year. Here's the deal. I'm going to give an answer here. I think if it's an individual sport, I have no problem with calling your shot. You know, the whole, I'm about to hit this one out of the park. The Conor McGregor, I'm going to show you how good I'm going to be, Muhammad Ali. Watch, it's coming. It's not if, it's when. So I don't mind it if it's individual, but a team sport, dealing with guys who probably can't handle the immaturity aspect of a 53-man roster, I don't think that's wise to come out there and put your team in that position. Why put that pressure on your team right away? Because all New England is going to do is they're sitting here listening, as they always do, and nothing's going to come out of there, and they're going to be like, okay, we can't wait for that game. You can't wait for that game? How about us? Wait for us coming. I just think I think he made a mistake, and I bet if you asked him again, he'd probably say, or maybe he'd double down. Who knows with this guy? But I think this is a mistake. I wouldn't have done it if I'm a head coach.
Rob Gronkowski yesterday is afraid to talk about celebrations.
Exactly what I was thinking.
Afraid to talk about celebrations because that's the culture and the climate there. I guarantee you, New England's only focus is on the next team. You have to respect the game and your opponent at all times. Again, the Bengals 5-6. They have a shot to sneak in and get a wild card playoff berth. It's the AFC North he should be focused on. That's what he's got this week.
And it's also important to remember is that you'd prefer to play Brady at home. Now, Brady's had his way with the Steelers home or away. But the rest of this regular season for the Steelers, you don't want to go to Foxborough that second game. So the idea that you could stumble when you've shown a proclivity to Indianapolis, they were outplayed. Green Bay, they were outplayed. Like, I don't think he quite understands. If you do have to face New England a second time, make it at our place. not theirs. On the other side of Pennsylvania, Carson Wentz and the Eagles put on another show Sunday, moving to 10-1 with a 31-3 rout over the Bears, who actually have a pretty solid defense. Philly's now won 9 straight, 4 straight by 23 or more. But they're not the only ones winning in convincing fashion. The Patriots drubbed Miami. Consistent excellence. 7 straight win. Brady set a record for the most TDs by a quarterback over 40, Whitlock. Which of these two, to you, is the best in the league?
I'm going to keep it real simple. One team plays in the best division in football, the NFC. One team is 10-1. The other team is 9-2. I think you are what your record says you are. The Eagles are the better team. I think they have a better defense. I'll just keep it simple again. They play in the NFC. They got the best record in football. How can you go against the Philadelphia Eagles?
I could go against them for this reason. Every time New England gets to a Super Bowl, because if you're asking me who's the best, you're putting them in the biggest game. Every time New England goes to a Super Bowl, we thought Seattle had this young defense, and New England just controlled it. Last year, it's Atlanta's offense. Oh, my God, it's Atlanta's offense. In the end,
destroyed them.
3 and out, 3 and out. New England always plays the young, hot, NFC, you'll never beat them. And New England does their system, outplayed early first half, 8 minutes to go. Brady, Belichick, out-scheme, out-coach, and outplay. Philadelphia feels like Atlanta. They feel like that Cam team that played Denver. They feel like the Seattle. Remember, that Carolina team that faced Denver, that was one of the great, it was an energy play. The NFC keeps giving us these different teams.
Atlanta should have won the Super Bowl last year.
And they didn't. I trust I trust Belichick. I trust experience. I trust veterans. I trust the system. I trust Tom. They feel like red hot. The Patriots never feel like they're red hot. They feel like, oh, this is the same great system to me.
Well, you know, I think I said it last week on a different show, but they're like Duke, you know, the Duke basketball team, just always doing it the right way. Everybody graduates. It's boring, but they're always in the Final Four. It seems like they're always going to win. But I agree with you. I'm going to go with Hall of Famers. That's who I would choose. That's who breaks it down for me. Go with Hall of Fame coach, best coach ever. Go with Tom Brady, best quarterback ever, arguably. The way they methodically go throughout the season, like we just talked about, nothing gets out of their approach to it. Peterson, Carson Wentz, they're on their way, it seems like. They got a good thing going. But in a big game, always bet Hall of Famer. Always. I'm telling you.
See, I'm not going to go against the Patriots because I know that they will end up deep into the playoffs, potentially in the Super Bowl. But this Philadelphia Eagles team, the way they win is so sustainable. With running the football, throwing the football, defense, special teams, they do it the right way, and they don't play down to their opponent's level. You don't see that with any other team in the league outside of the Patriots.
Right.
This is why I am a believer in the Philadelphia Eagles, because of the way they've been able to beat teams, whether they should beat them by a landslide or it should be a close game. They go into every game with the mindset that every team wants to. We're going to focus on this team. We're going to do what we do best, and we should win this game. And it's been working for them. That's why I believe in the Philadelphia
Think about
Eagles.
this. The Patriots won the Super Bowl last year without Gronk. This year they miss Edelman. I think it shows you the power of New England's system. I mean, every time I watch them when's the last time you turned on a Patriot game? You ever miss first 10 minutes of a football game? And you turn on a Patriot game and you went, whoa! No, you're always like, oh, they lead 14-0. I mean, seriously, Steelers, you missed the first 8 minutes. They trail by 2 touchdowns to Green Bay. Their consistency, I don't think I've ever...
I watched last year's Super Bowl. They were getting dusted, and if the man had just run the ball, they would have lost that game. So, listen, I don't want to in any way denigrate the New England Patriots. Brady, Belichick, they're awesome. Greatest of all time. Someone has to have next. That is the reality of sports and the reality of life. There's always going to be, Michael Jordan, he doesn't go on forever. And LeBron carries the torch. Carson Wentz looks the part like he's got next.
Yeah.
And that has to start at some point. They are destroying teams. This, again, we don't have these teams like the '85 Bears that just ran over everybody. That's what Philadelphia is looking like every week. They're destroyed. Look at their point differential. I think it's 160 points. Anytime you lead the league in point differential, you generally play in the Super Bowl. And again, I think right now we expect the Patriots.
Who do you trust, Doug Peterson? Belichick, Peterson, 8 minutes left.
Well, again, I trust Belichick more. This young quarterback, though. I'm just
over Tom Brady. Come on now.
It's not a matter of over Tom Brady, but will he fold? I don't think he folds. I don't think he buckles. Either. And that's what I love about him, because he's one of those guys that he doesn't care. They don't fear anyone, because they're focusing. If we do what we do, we can win.
And Brady he took more hits yesterday.
Boy, he took a ton.
And Belichick's not letting him out of these games. Eventually, I'm just betting on Father Time at some point. And look, I just think if Philly gets in the same spot as Atlanta this year with those two running backs they have in Philadelphia, they're going to run the ball and run out the clock. I think Carson Wentz
I will say this. The way to beat Saban has always been to find a quarterback that he can't scheme for. There is something to say about Carson. You can scheme for Matt Ryan because you know where he's going to be after the snap. Wentz makes plays that you can't scheme for. He made a couple against Chicago. I'm like, you can't. No. I mean, John Fox, a good defensive coordinator. That was a top 10 defense.
He's got some Aaron Rodgers in.
A lot of Aaron Rodgers. Welcome back. Tony Gonzalez, Greg Jennings. Here we go. Let's move to Dallas, where Dak Prescott did not have a great and happy Thanksgiving. Struggling again as the Cowboys lost to the Chargers. Now, LA is pretty good. Dallas has now lost 3 straight, can't move the ball, dropped 5 and 6 on the year. And Dak is facing a lot of criticism over the losing streak, but he's not taking it lying down.
What I say to those people, keep questioning me. I mean, obviously, if you're questioning me, you don't know me and you don't know what I'm about. So keep questioning me. Sure, have fun at it.
All right, Whitlock, after hearing that, are you concerned about Dak's mindset?
A little, because he sounded a little defensive. He didn't sound like hey, relax, we got this. He sounded a little defiant. And so I have a little bit of concern because this is his first bout of adversity. Last year was a cakewalk pretty much, and so now we're going to see how Dak performs in a storm. And the problems he's got is Dez Bryant. I have to admit, at the beginning of the year, I was still thinking he's a top 5 receiver. Guy can't separate, can't help it. Got 103 targets, 50-some-odd receptions. And so no Ezekiel Elliott, no Dez Bryant as a top 5 receiver. Dak's got to do some things on his own, and right now it doesn't look like he can do it.
I don't worry about Dak. I worry about Jerry Jones turned 70 years old and now is taking massive personnel risks. He's fighting with the NFL. That's not where the focus should be. I worry about Jason Garrett. The team's not energized. They're not good post-half. They don't adjust well. I mean, that's just a fact. They do not adjust. Some teams do, some don't. Pete Carroll's teams do. They don't. I'm worried about the guys upstairs. I'm worried about the guys on the headset. I've never thought Dak was a great talent. I think he's a really good leader. He feels, sounds, looks, talks like a franchise quarterback. You know, I think he's closer to Kirk Cousins than Carson Wentz. But this organization, to me, it's just loose. Jerry's changed. He's getting in fights. I don't trust upstairs right now. I don't.
On the field is what matters most. Yeah, I'm not concerned with his comments. He definitely is getting defensive. Last year, all the comments were positive. So he was able to say, deflect on the team. Well, yeah, we're doing this, we're doing that, we're doing everything right. He never had to embrace the I. But once it's negative, the team isn't defending you, nobody in the media is defending you, so you feel this extra assertion of, well, I got to say something. And that's what he did. I don't have a problem with that. What I do have a problem with is it is your team, and you have not performed up to the level that we saw last year when you had all these pieces clicking. Now that you're by yourself and you have the opportunity to let us know who you are as an elite, one of the emerging elite stars quarterbacks in this league, I need you to show me that. And he has not been able to perform. So that's what I have an issue with. Can he do it without Ezekiel Elliott? We understand that the running game is a quarterback's best friend. That's great. But I need you, when that running game isn't clicking, I need you to be able to throw that ball, make some things happen with your legs, and he has not been able to do that.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. And I like that, though. I think every player needs to go through something like this. I went through that my second year in the league when this guy was writing bad stuff about me. Because he's a big bully. That's what he is. And I got to sit next to him. He's a big bully with the pen in his hand. And so, yeah, but I honestly, and I tell him this all the time, it's the best thing that ever happened to me. This could be the best thing that ever happened to him. It changed my mindset and took me from a pretty tough guy, I think I was tough back then, to like a hardcore chisel person. He's going through the fire right now as a player. And this, to me, is something that can make him an even better quarterback in the long run. He might not get it figured out this year. And I like how he responded. Don't take it. Go out there. What are you going to do about it, though? That's what you got. That's what I want to see. What steps are you going to take, just like you were just talking about, Greg, are you going to take to get back to being a player that we love, that can be that great? Remember, quarterbacks don't hit their peak until year 4 or 5 anyway. He's got a lot of growing to do.
Don't you guys worry? When you watch Dallas, you know, we've always had Jason Garrett's been sort of this stoic guy. I'm okay with that. But we always knew that Jerry, after the games, talks more than Jason. I wonder do the players buy Jason Garrett? I don't feel like they're a very energized team. For years and years, we've known Jerry makes the decisions. War room, draft room. I kind of feel like there's a sense among players. I don't see the effort. They just no longer, the voice of Jason Garrett doesn't have the influence.
If that's the case, I'm not blaming Jerry Jones for that. You have to capture the imagination of the 53 guys on your team with your intellect and your strategy and your vision. If Jason Garrett hasn't done that after 5, 6, 7 years in Dallas, that's on Jason Garrett. You and I talked this weekend about Jared Goff and what a difference changing coaches has made for him. And again, I made a mental note to myself, man, maybe I got to back off these quarterbacks and ask questions about what's going on the sidelines, what's going on in the headsets.
You make a great point right there. He has to have some type of intangible that he brings to the table that says, I'm worth this head coaching position. He does. When we look at Jason Garrett, you name one thing that he does well. Exactly.
No, I mean,
you're at a loss of words. You can't really find anything that he hangs his hat on.
I criticize Tomlin, but emotionally, I mean, they play with unbelievable emotion. He's Pete Carroll. To your point, I say this about Mike Mularkey.
This is what Garrett does a lot of. They catch him on the sideline.
He's a good clapper. That slaps really well.
That's what he does a lot of times. And again,
Garrett.
And again, I don't know what's going, but Dak Prescott has taken a step back clearly. I'm looking at Jared Goff take this huge step forward, and it's about that young coach, Sean McVay, capturing the imagination of that team, having a vision of what they're going to do offensively. I don't see a vision in Dallas.
No, that's a good point.
Of what they're doing offensively, and that may be hurting Dak Prescott.
Welcome back, Greg Jennings, Tony Gonzalez. He returns. Let's move to the LA Coliseum. That was fun yesterday. Rams snapped the Saints' 8-game winning streak. Huge matchup of NFC contenders. Jared Goff's most impressive win to date. Threw for more than 350 yards. On the other side, Drew Brees and the Saints' normally explosive offense stymied for most of the game. Some big penalties, too. Whitlock, did yesterday say more about the Rams or the Saints?
Wow. I think it said a lot about the Rams, to be quite honest with you. I was sitting there just really impressed with Jared Goff. I thought nothing of him a year ago. I think the world of him now this year. I thought that game said just a whole hell of a lot about the Los Angeles Rams and how seriously we should take them. I think they're a legitimate Super Bowl contender. I think they're the #1 threat to the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFC. I'll just add this little bit, though. Something was up with Drew Brees yesterday. And that was a little concerning. He looked 38, 39 years old yesterday.
I'll tell you what blew me away, and I remember before the game I said to Greg, I said to you both yesterday on NFL Kickoff, I said, a veteran quarterback, Matt Ryan, you take away Julio. He's got Mohamed Sanu in the backs. Aaron Rodgers, you take. They took away Robert Woods. That was Jared Goff's security blanket, and he had his best game as a pro. Like I sat there and because I really was like, man, this could go sideways fast. He looked great. Maybe it's coaching, but that blew me away by Goff. You took away his security. If you take Zach Ertz away from Wentz and he was better, had his best game, you'd be like, okay, that's special.
It definitely says more about the Rams. The way they bounce back after a tough loss in Minnesota against the Vikings to come out on their home turf and beat a rolling New Orleans Saints team impressively. And one thing that impresses me most about the Rams, they start fast.
Yes.
And if you don't punch them back, they will keep punching you.
Yeah.
This is, and for a young quarterback to start fast, to get off to these fast starts and to make throws and have your receivers making plays for you and know that you have this Todd Gurley kid in the backfield that you can hand it off to or throw out in the flats and in routes, these are huge momentum builders going in deep into the season. I think this team is, again, I'm high on the Minnesota Vikings, but this team is a force to be reckoned with in the NFC.
Yeah, they proved something to me yesterday. I picked the Saints. I thought the Saints were the second best team next to Philly out of the NFC. They are loaded. And Jared Goff, I think that was probably the most impressive thing out of it because he took away Robert Woods. But Sammy Watkins, I think you got a #1 guy right there, and he got way more involved in this, and I think that's a good thing. Robert Woods not being there is probably going to help this team even better as they go down the road because now Sammy Watkins woke up or they used him more, and now you can take that with you going forward. But the Saints, I'm still not going to count them out. I think they're a different team at home. They don't lose at home. Drew Brees plays a lot better in that dome. They didn't have their 2 starting DBs. I'd like to see this game played with Lattimore, probably one of the best DBs. He's definitely, to me, he's got my vote, Rookie Defensive Player of the Year. That's a big deal when you don't have your shutdown corner in there. So I'd like to see this game played a little bit more even.
We talk about gambling from time to time. There's a stat that Vegas gamblers really lean on, yards per play. Give the Saints credit. They were outplayed. They didn't have their 2 corners. They were on the road, and they were better yards per play than the Rams. That's impressive. Let's just know that game was 26-20. If you can go face Goff, face the Rams on the road, no 2 corners, and you lose by 6. I went to the box score after the game, and I'm like, man, their yards per play were almost 7.5. This Saints team is, listen, don't bury the Rams because they lost to the Vikings. Don't bury the Saints because they lost to the Rams. Saints are a good team.
Greg made an interesting point about them starting fast. Sean McVay, at the end of the game, was still trying to be hyper-aggressive.
He was.
Maybe too aggressive.
A little bit.
And but it reminded me of like Mike Martz when he had the Rams rolling in St. Louis. He wants that hyper-aggressive team that's trying to score all the time. All right, welcome back to the show. Greg Jennings is back, and we're joined now by the founder of the Big Lead, Jason McIntyre. Let's move to Tennessee, where the Volunteers are now no longer interested in hiring Greg Schiano as their head coach after alumni, state representatives, and even White House press secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders and our very own Clay Travis protested Schiano's hire over unproven allegations that he covered up sexual abuse at Penn State. Needless to say, our good friend Joel Klatt wasn't pleased, tweeting, quote, "Tennessee is now having to focus on coaches with Tennessee ties because no one else will touch that job with a 10-foot pole. You were led by emotional hypocrites with a severe lack of football knowledge that incited an internet mob. You made your bed, now go sleep in it, Clay Travis." All right, Colin, do you have an issue with Tennessee backing out of this hire?
Well, now that question, yes. Hire somebody, do your background, and deal with the pushback. He wouldn't have been my choice. I have no problem with fans having a voice. But if the question is, do I have a problem with the University of Tennessee? Yes, gutless. Do your homework, make a choice, and deal with internet crazy people. That's just bad leadership. By the way, they've butchered about 5 of these hires. The Lane Kiffin thing didn't work out. The Dooley thing didn't work out. Butch Jones was a gym teacher. And now you're going to have to hire some, coordinator who's not. This is a big boy job. You better have been a head coach somewhere. You're going to get stuck with a coordinator who can recruit. That's not Tennessee's level.
I had the misfortune of covering John Curry when he was the athletic director at Kansas State. And he ran off Frank Martin as the basketball coach. And Frank Martin, of course, has taken South Carolina to the Final Four. So John Curry, to me, butchered this. And it's unfair what has happened to Greg Schiano. Listen, I'm friends with Clay Travis. He was part of the attack on Greg Schiano. The whole Penn State part of the attack, I completely disagree with.
Yeah.
And thought it was unfair to Greg Schiano and should have been left out of this.
Agreed.
If you want to question Greg Schiano,
As a
how
coach.
successful was he at Rutgers?
Yeah.
I think record around 500. How successful was he at Tampa Bay? Got ran off in a year and a half.
Ohio State's defense now.
Yeah, terrible stories. If you wanted to question all that, that's fair game. What I really blame John Curry for, if he was all in on this guy, there's a process to hiring a guy like Greg Schiano. You have to get a guy like Peyton Manning on board with you and sell this internally to your boosters. Here's why. And Peyton Manning's right here with me. This wasn't handled in an intelligent fashion. And if you know John Curry well or you know his history, you're not surprised.
Yeah, for me, it's unfortunate what has transpired for Greg Schiano on his side of it. But I don't have a problem with what Tennessee has done simply for this reason. When you're talking about college football, you're talking about boosters, donors, investing their dollars into your school, into their school.
Right.
And so they feel like they have a say.
And it is their school.
Absolutely. And so when they speak, you have to listen because you're literally at their mercy at some degree. Is it wrong, the process? Should they have done better work? I totally agree with you. You should get a Peyton Manning involved and sell it to your boosters because this is who you have to sell it to. Not the fans, the boosters, because they're funding your program.
You got to sell it to them, but you can't let them have too much of a say, right? They don't know how to run a business like a football program in Tennessee. What I see, Colin, and what you said earlier on your radio show that really stuck with me was these SEC schools are struggling to get coaches right now.
They're settling.
You know what I want to tie it to is the rise in social media over the last 5 years. We've seen SEC struggle to find great coaches, and you know why that is? Football is religion in these SEC towns, right?
Yeah.
There's no pro football teams in a lot of these towns, or the college program is the #1 game in town.
Sure.
And these fans are so passionate. They follow recruiting year-round. They are scaring coaches with their social media power.
He's right.
This mob mentality, and if you don't want to say the word mob, fine, but what's happening on social media is, oh, I don't like this AD. Let's get a campaign to get him out of here. And then people are just panicked and scared and terrified, and they're making irrational decisions. I do believe that there is something between social media and SEC college football
I think it's a really
programs.
interesting point. I would say this, and to your point, I think you're right. I think it's a really good point. That, I mean, we've seen governments topple in the last 6 years. That didn't happen before social media, not to the level, and not to the expedience. You have to manipulate social media. You could have avoided this. Throw Schiano's name out a week earlier.
No question.
And then call Clay Travis, call the local show, and let him lobby it. He's moving off that one.
Absolutely, that's a great point.
You have to be, listen, we all know how the social media game works. You have to manipulate and massage social media. Just shocking your fans with a Sunday night hire, they felt ticked off. To your point, it's their program.
It was handled in a stupid fashion by John Curry. I will say this, though. I'm not going to sit here and say SEC coaches are more afraid of social media than the $4, $5, $6 million paydays that go along with being an SEC coach. If I'm a coach, I'll go to Tennessee. If I'm a good coach, if I'm a young coach, if I'm Lane Kiffin, I would go back to Tennessee.
Well, Lane Kiffin,
right.
He's not going to get a better offer than that.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
I would go back to – I think they can hire good coaches in the SEC. I'm just telling you, I know this guy's work previously. He and Bill Snyder didn't get along when they were at – and Bill Snyder, to me, is the greatest college football coach I've ever seen. They didn't get along when Curry was at Kansas State. He ran off Frank Martin, one of the best young coaches I've ever seen, and not shocked at all he could take South Carolina to a Final Four. John Curry is not very good at his job, and he blew it here.